welcome everybody. I'm Mark Cantor. I'm president of MSYSA. We're excited that you're joining in. We have a lot of good information today because we have one of our favorite board members who does a lot for the Estate Association. Brad Roos will be speaking shortly on State Cup and President's Cup presentation. I just want to let you know a few things that based on all the previous months that we've been doing this has been like a really positive webinar series that we feel that we're really helping our affiliates gain a little bit of knowledge every other week. And you're certainly allowed to pipe in. We just ask that if you do pipe in, be respectful and just state your name and your affiliation. Also want you to know that please be courteous, and also know that this is being recorded so that if for some reason you want to go back, or you have some other people in your club or affiliation that want to listen to what Brad and us have to say, you can always go back on our MSYSA website and tune back in to the recording. In fact, all of our webinars are recorded for that reason, because a lot of times people actually are at work and they can't participate in these. So it's good to have a recording series that you can always go back to. So briefly, before we go into Brad, I was just stating that even though we're still in the dark cloud with COVID, things seem to be opening up a little bit more. People are getting a little less anxious about the disease. And for example, in my son's school, I was just saying for the people that just piped on that he was only allowed to train 2 days a week at his school for sports. They just reversed it. Now it's 4 days a week. So I think even at the school, they're feeling more comfortable with opening up more, and little by little. It's kind of like, you take a little and you give a little. So one thing, I don't want to put her on the spot on another topic, but one of our dear board members, Trish, her son is in the hospital. We want to send her as much wishes and hope that we can. We feel horrible that her son has pneumonia. He's on a ventilator. He doesn't have COVID, but he's very sick. Signs today were that he was feeling a little bit better, some of the different indicators, but he's not out of the woods and quite yet, and he's in great care. And my heart goes out to Trish and her family. It really does. And I know everyone else feels the same way. And we're here for you, Trish. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Whatever you need, we're there for you, honestly. So you can call me at any time. My cell phone is always with me. We'll always do whatever we can. Like I said earlier, if you feel that you need a ride to the hospital, or if you need something taken care of, or whatever, if you need some food at your house, we'll pick that up. Honestly, we'll do whatever we can to help you. So please keep us posted, and please know that we're praying for you and your family, and especially your son.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you all so much for your kindness and your thoughts and prayers. The only thing I ask is that you hug your kids and tell them you love them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to first introduce Brad Roos, our State Cup director and President's Cup director. Maryland is, and I'm telling you this, and I know because I'm president. I've been president of MSYSA for years. I know just about everybody across the country. I know their State Cup directors. I know their executive directors. I know everything about a lot of other states. Maryland happens to be one of the luckiest states because of Brad Roos as our director. He knows more about tournaments than anyone else that I've ever met, and the work that he has done for our state association in Maryland and in DC to help pull off State Cup and President's Cup over the last 5, 6, 7 years has been unmatched by anyone. And used to be a total nightmare. And it used to be for years ago, it used to be almost the worst time of the year for us because there was so much to do. And a lot of times it was over our head. And since Brad's been the State Cup and President's Cup director, he's also involved in the regional State Cup and President's Cup. So we're lucky to have somebody that's so professional and is able to run some of the best tournaments that we can for the state of Maryland. So with that, Brad, I'd like to introduce Brad Roos, our Cup director, and he has a lot of great information to tell us today.
Okay, Mark. Hey, thanks. That was really not necessary as far as introduction, but thank you. And thanks everybody for coming today. I think you're going to be really pleased with the amount of information that we're going to be providing to you this morning, because it is a lot. 2020, what a year this has been. And I think things will change and be much different as far as youth soccer is concerned for the future. And so we need to be on the cutting edge and need to be able to adjust to what we need to do. The information I'm going to provide to you today, it really could change tomorrow because of how fluid the situation is. But I will tell you this. For some of you that I think most of you probably know, I also have coordinated the Bethesda tournament for, this is my 36th year doing that. And we never thought we would get permission to do that in Montgomery County. We thought there was no way. But what I did was we provided data and statistics from around the country. And basically right now in the country, 44 of the 54 state associations are holding events, games, festivals, tournaments. And out of those 44, there's not been one contract tracing back to a soccer event as far as COVID is concerned. So we feel comfortable that we've come up with protocols that will work for both 2020 and 2021 until we get out of this pandemic. So I'm very, very optimistic and positive about that. The presentation this morning is going to do two things. Number one, it's going to answer a lot of questions that you're going to have regarding the CUP program moving forward. I would ask if you could hold your questions till the end. We'll have an open discussion, because what I want to do is, I'm sure a question that one of you has, 4 or 5 of you may have. And again, I may not be able to cover or may miss something throughout the presentation. So just write it down and let me know, and we can talk about it at the end. The second thing is, I'm going to give you an actual roadmap of actual dates that right now we look to have our events. And I think this is really important. Almost all of you, your schedules are so tight. They're so filled. There's so much, like I said, fluidity out there as far as what teams are doing, that I wanted to give you hard dates today so that you can actually start beginning to plan for these events. I think this is really important. Having coached a team for a long period of time, this was critical in how I set up my year as far as planning for the competitions. As Mark said, Maryland has an unbelievable history of great teams. All of you know that our state comp competition is a highlight of the MSYSA year, and our competition level is off the charts. If you just look at all of the national champions that we've had from Maryland, it just goes to show that while we are a small state in area, we are a big state as far as youth soccer is concerned. Last year, we had 42 teams attend the East Regional, and that means teams qualify through State Cup champions, through wild cards, and then the majority of them were through the national conference, the EDP National Conference, that is now a part of the NCS regional tournament. The other thing is, as Mark said, and I don't want to just say this, our state is the only state in the country that both the East President's Cup and the NCS chair is from the same state. And that's myself and my comrade that that we have both that Sean Fleming covered. So our state, as Mark said, is so respected throughout this country, and a lot of it, if not all of it, has to do with our competition and the teams that represent us at the regional and national tournaments. If we can go to the next slide, because I don't think I have control of it. Maybe I do. So when we started looking at the schedules, we started looking at projections and changes for this year as far as rules and format. So the first thing that came to mind is that the public schools in Maryland came up with a fall sports season in spring. So they're going to try to have the three seasons, winter, then fall, then spring, in the spring. And so the practice and reconditioning started March 15th. The competition started April 5th through May 8th. So we really didn't think that it was going to work that we would have our high school age teams participating in the cups during that time. And so we try to come up with a plan that allows that time period to almost be like a dead period for the cup process for those teams. Now, they may still decide to play leagues. That's totally up to them. They may still decide to do tournaments during the time. That's up to them. But our competition is so important that I just didn't want to put any team or any club in a bad situation as far as trying to do both high school 5 or 6 days a week and then play a cup game. Now, how can this change even today? Two things. One, there's a proposal to move to an earlier date, meaning that instead of March 15th, they would start their practice and reconditioning March 1st, which means I'm assuming that the season would end about 2 weeks earlier, which then would have to change the potential schedule that I've kind of put together. The second thing that enters into it is I'm starting to hear that some of the larger jurisdictions are thinking about moving to online school for the entire year, not just the first semester, but for the second semester also. I know there's been a survey put out to parents in, I think, Montgomery and Howard County, trying to get some information back from that. Does that mean that teams won't be able to play sports if they're doing virtual? I don't know. That's one of the other things that are out there that we're going to kind of have to come to grips with as we go through this. So again, it really comes down to we're going to have to be able to move and work together as a group to make sure we can make this happen. And there's going to be changes sometimes at the last minute, and we have to understand that. The other thing is, I kind of touched on before, is we will have COVID-19 protocols. I don't see that there will be a vaccine that is completely available to everyone, at least by the time our cups start, and probably not till towards the end, if at the end. So we will be putting together some COVID-19 protocols for our events. Let me put this to you, though, that's really important. The protocols that we're going to put together are twofold. One, they're going to be doable, meaning that we're not going to be asking people to do things that are going to be so difficult that people are not going to want to play in the cup program. And two, we're going to make them enforceable, meaning that we're going to have to hold people accountable, because if one team doesn't follow protocols and we get in a problem in a particular county, that could affect the whole cup program. And so that's the one thing that we don't want to do. So we're not going to have 4 or 5 pages. It's going to be 1 page, and it's going to be, I said, pretty simplistic and pretty easy to follow. Next to talk about is we do have credits from last year from the State Cup. We're still kind of working on what's going to be the most efficient and effective way to manage these credits. We're looking at maybe going to having the club-centric payment system that we have now for 9 different clubs and using that. But again, we're going to have to kind of talk about this internally and then work with the clubs on how the payments method's going to work, and also how we utilize the credits that are available for each club. So we'll be sending something out to all of you as far as that's concerned, probably in the next I would say next 4 weeks. The thing that we will say is when you register for the state cup or for the cups this year, I don't know that we'll automatically make you put a payment in until we get all of the credits sorted out and exactly what teams they should be going to. Okay, next. A couple things here. Age group changes. So state cup, the 19U is actually a 19U, 20U age group. So 2002s and 2001s are eligible to play in that age group. Why was that done? The feeling was that because the 19Us from last year, the 2001s, were not allowed to, or did not get the opportunity to play state cup or to play in the regional tournament, that they would be brought back this year. This is not unprecedented. If you remember, the year that we switched from August 1st to January 1st birthdays, we also had a 20U combination there in that year. I can tell you that I was not for this type of format. I proposed to the National Committee, which I'm on, that we have a separate 19U and a separate 20U division, because what it could do is disenfranchise the 19Us for this year if there's a full 20U team that wins. I will tell you that I will be very aggressive in getting a wild card for the girls and boys in this age group, so that hopefully that will mitigate or take away some of the issues that could be with having a combined age group. But it is a concern of mine, and like I said, I got voted down 3-1 at the national level, which, as you know, if a lot of you know me and how competitive I am, really wasn't very happy about that. And then the President's Cup this year, they will have an 18U, 19U combination. So their combination will be 2002 and 2003s together. And I think that that will remain for the next couple of years for that particular one. The State Cup next year in 2022 will go back to just a singular 19U age group. As far as President's Cup, I'm still working on reformatting and determining those. I am getting Sean to work with me on that so that our President's Cup state rules mimic the regional rules for President's Cup. I think this is really important that when we play State Cup or we play President's Cup in Maryland, that when you advance to regionals, that there is nothing that is going to be way different or so that you're unprepared for as you move up into the next level. So we're kind of looking at those. We will have those done fairly quickly, and we'll put those up on the website. As far as State Cup rule changes, in the regional tournament, U12 plays 30-minute halves instead of 35. So we're going to move to that so that we are consistent with that. Just a reminder that in the past we went with a 51% note as far as continuity for seeding purposes. The national rule is 9 players needed for continuity, so we are moving to that. What does that mean? That's twofold for our Maryland teams. One, you must have at least 9 players from your league roster that qualifies you for Cup, that then it plays on your State Cup roster. So that's the continuity for that. And number 2, in order to seed, and we're going to seed from 2019 since we did not have a State Cup competition last year. So we're going to use the 2019 results and just move them up 2 age groups. So again, if a team has 9 players of continuity from 2019, they will get seeded. I understand this is not ideal, but quite honestly, it's better than not having no seeding at all. And what this does is this rewards a team that has been able to keep their players together for the past several years. Does this mean that we will have less seeded teams for this year? Absolutely. There's no question. What it also means is that in the 12 and 13 age group, there won't be any seeds. So again, it's not the most ideal, but it is the fairest, I think, as far as rewarding teams if they've keeping their team together and for the fact that they were winners or in the top 4 from 2019. And then the only other national rule, national changed rule, is that the date for carded players has changed. Okay, in the past, a player had to be within your club at the time that state cup freeze date occurred, which was normally the first Wednesday in April. This year, the club carded date is 10 days from the regional tournament. So if the regional tournament starts June 25th, a player to be eligible would have to be with a USYSA card by June 15th. Now, what are the pluses? And the other thing about this that's really important is if a player plays in a cup competition with another club during the 2020-2021 year, they are ineligible to be a club carded player even if they transfer. Okay, so again, just repeating that again. If a player plays in a cup competition for another club in this seasonal year, they can't just transfer and be eligible as a club carded player. This does open up, though, other avenues, other associations, and adding those kids into the clubs and then adding them to the regional, into the regional competition. So it's something that the reason that we're doing this is there was an unfair disadvantage for all the states that had their cups in the fall. As an example, in the East, Virginia has their older teams in the fall. New Jersey had their younger teams in the fall. Their club carded freeze date was in September. And so they couldn't add any club pass players the whole year. So when they had injuries or other issues, that they were at a total disadvantage. Where like our state, we could do it till April. So now it's the same for all the states in the country. And number two, this now means that a player that participates in the National League for a team has not played in a cup competition, but transferred after what was the freeze date in the past. Those players couldn't go to nationals if their team qualified. Now they can. So we've done this to try to take care of a couple of the issues that came up as far as the rosters were concerned. Is it the perfect ideal situation? We don't know. I think it is better than what we had, but we will be looking at this after this year, after nationals, to see, did the rule work? Was it a positive change, or were there more problems than advantages? Okay, next. Recently, we sent out a survey to all the teams that participate in the cups. In particular, we needed to make sure that we answered, or at least had a general idea of a couple questions. And so that was really the pertinent part of it. Number one, we had 148 respondents, which is actually a really good number as far as the teams that did fill out a survey. Number two, we came over 90% of teams that said they would either definitely or most likely play cups again this year, which again was a real positive outcome as far as the survey was concerned. Here are the three things that we asked and came through. Number one, 75% of the respondents from President's Cup said they would be willing to pay additional game costs if the games were held at turf fields and at the soccerplex. Why is this important? For two reasons. One, as Sean Fleming will tell you, there is a national program that is trying to up the level of how President's Cup is presented. The issue in the past has been that people looked at President's Cup as a second-rate competition. And I want to be clear about this. That is the far, far from it. We have two different levels of competition based upon the skill factor or the skill level of the teams. That's what it is. So clearly, if it's a first team from a particular club, or even sometimes a second team, that team should be playing in NCS. But we do have third, fourth, fifth teams in clubs that are pretty competitive, that are playing competitive schedules, but would more more attuned to the President's Cup competition. So in Maryland, I was very concerned, as this year kind of working with both, that the President's Cup was on level with what we were providing to the state cup teams. So what does this mean? And this means that we will be looking at scheduling President's Cup games at turf fields like we have in the past for state cup, and at Soccerplex when we get down into this round of 16 and this quarterfinals and the semifinals and the finals. The second part of this is that we have a limited number of resources of people that can be at these cup games. I like to have a member of MSYSA be present at every cup game that we have. We can't always do that, but because we've been split in the past, we've had to split resources. So I'm hoping by combining them, we can better use the resources of making sure that we have adequate coverage at all of the events, both President's Cup and State Cup. Secondly, the question came up of 15U. And I understand that 15U kind of goes between 8th grade and 9th grade. Some teams, 9th grade, they have more 9th graders than 8th graders. Some it's the opposite. So we wanted to get an idea of when we set up the schedule, the format, what would make the most sense. So we asked both the President's Cup and the State Cup teams, what would be their preference? It was interesting and a little bit surprising, but 75% of the President's Cup teams that responded back wanted to see the 15Us played on the alternate schedule, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which would mean that they would not play during the high school dead period. But in difference, and while it was close, 65% of the 15 and under State Cup teams said they'd like to play on the regular schedules in the past. Now that fluctuated. It was somewhere between 55 to 65 as we kind of got the respondents. Right now I'm leaning to the 15U playing on the regular cup schedule. Again, if we didn't hear from some of the 15U teams and there seems to be more that come to me and say, look, Brad, we'd rather not play during the high school period, then that could change, but we'd have to make that change fairly quickly, and you'll see why in a little bit. Okay, next. So here's the most important part of the presentation. The next four slides. Basically, I'm providing you with the dates that you need to do the planning. So basically, as you can see here are the tentative registration deadlines. So in mid-November, which is clearly almost 5 weeks earlier than normal. And this is why it's critical that we have people on the call today, because you've got to let your states, your clubs know. Cup will open for all age groups beginning in mid-November. Okay, and that's critical. But here's where it really comes in. January 6th, which is a month earlier than normal, will be the deadline for applications for 16U to 18U State Cup presently, and 15U to 17U President's Cup. That will be the deadline. So it's much earlier than it's ever been. So as a state, we need to get organized much, much quicker. Also this year, I know we've had some great presentations, guests, we've had special effects, we've had different videos from the competition from the previous year. We're not going to do that this year because of COVID and because of some of the issues with that. So starting the week of January 10th, each age group that's listed above, we will do your Zoom draw. So you'll get an invitation, we'll have a Zoom draw, we'll do it right then and there, right in front of you like we did before. We'll probably give you a couple of the changes or go back over a couple of things that are really important during that time. But again, it's going to be basically for the actual draw. Okay. And then January 29th is the normal time for State Cup deadline. But again, it's also going to be the deadline this year for President's Cup. That again is about a month earlier for President's Cup than it's been. Now, what does this mean as far as State Cup and play-in games. If you remember correctly, in the past, State Cup, if you lost in the play-in game in State Cup, you could drop down to President's Cup. We will do that if feasible, meaning that if the President's Cup competition has not begun and a team is eliminated from the play-in game from State Cup, we will offer them the chance to drop down. And again, I haven't completely worked out how that's going to be, but if you lose in a play-in game and the President's Cup has already begun, you would not be able to drop down into President's Cup. So that's a discussion you're going to need to have as far as where your team, the best spot for where your team should be. And you can call me or email me. I'll be happy to talk that over with you if you have any questions. Next slide. So then again, we talk about the week of April 7th. We'll do the Zoom draw for the 12 through 14, 15U State Cup. And then on April 19th is the deadline for the 2 oldest age groups, which has always been. And then you see the Zoom draw for those 2 oldest age groups listed there. Next, best case scenario. I tried to put together the best information I could. So if you're in the State Cup under these age groups or President's Cup under age groups, here is your schedule. Here is when we will be playing games as it stands today. Now, in February and March, all games must be played on turf fields. So we will be soliciting turf fields from the clubs throughout the state. I am working with Soccerplex. I am working with SAC. I know Frederick is already guaranteed that they'll provide fields for us. Bethesda has guaranteed they'll provide fields for us. And so we'd like to try to get a turf field for a day, 2 in 1 spot if possible. Remember again that when clubs provide fields for our State Cup, President's Cup games, they are reimbursed $200 per game. So we do reimburse clubs for providing spots for State Cup and President's Cup game. So you can see that in the older age groups, we will have the round robin done in March. And then those older teams will come back for the semifinals and the finals in May and June. If we can go to the next date. And then the potential play dates for the younger age groups has been the same as it's been. We would start in March weekends when playing dates. We will give you the opportunity to work with the other team to set up a date during March to get your play-in game in. You can see the April have the round of 16. The last weekend, first weekend in May are the round robins, and then the semifinals and finals would be the same dates as the older groups. We do have flexibility this year that for the first time that I can remember, we will have an open weekend that if we do get canceled, we would be able to move games to. And that's the weekend of May 8th and 9th. So we do have a little bit of more flexibility than we've had in the past, depending upon what the weather's going to be like. Again, having turf fields, I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to play games. I guess the only thing that would stop us would be snow. And so I'm kind of hoping for a winter where we have a warm one like we did last year. And then the last information is the PowerPoint presentation will be on the MSYSA website by Monday. All of this information. I will have the rules and a complete calendar by mid-November up on the website. And then if you have any questions, you can contact me at that email. So I hope I know it's a lot of information. I tried to cover as many different things as I could. I'll throw it out now for questions, comments, thoughts, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Go ahead, Dan. I can't see everybody, so you guys have to speak up.
Dan raised his hand, the first one, of course.
Yeah, of course. I know. Make all the comments, take him from the chat. You're gonna, when you post this up, do you have any idea of a cost for everything? Will that also be, you'll be dropping that up, or is that too early to say?
So, I mean, Dan, we anticipate that the cost will be the same as last year, $565 to register and $175 for the game fees. And like I said, again, the only thing that's changing is the present game fees are going to go up to the $175 because of the locations.
Yeah, maybe you mentioned that, and that I have had a couple of emails that ping and blocked out the sound. So that's cool. I'm not sure if we're going to put that only 2001 in or not, but because they're all in college, so it's going to depend on that.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing is a lot of the colleges are not having regular seasons either, right? And so a lot of these kids are looking for places to play. So I actually think that we're going to get a fair amount of 2001s coming back because it's been so choppy as far as their seasons are concerned.
Or non-existent.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, one thing that I did leave out is there's been a question about GA and MLS. MLS teams, while they do have an agreement with US Youth, they are not eligible for State Cup, okay, or clearly not President's Cup. The GA, that's the Girls Academy, are playing under US Youth cards. And again, even though they have a separate format that they're using, including a national championship or a national showcase, from what I understand, they are eligible to play in our State Cup or NCS program as long as they follow the eligibility rules, which the most important is they have to have played in a US Youth sanctioned league. Okay, so I know that did come up. I know that did come up quite a bit in questions, and I meant to put that on there and I just forgot all about it. What other questions are there?
Any other questions?
Hey, Brad, this is Nathan.
Hey.
Can you confirm if you are aware right now the difference? I know you mentioned the club carding with NCS, the difference between President's Cup and State Cup with regards to those club passes, especially as they pass from the state level to the regional level.
Yeah, I don't. Is Sean on the? Sean could probably answer.
Sean is not. He's on a doctor.
Okay. Yeah, Nathan, I really can't because I haven't really gotten deep down into the President's Cup yet. I'm working with Sean on that, but I will try to get something out to everybody on that.
Okay.
That's a great question.
He had mentioned it, and so it came up as you were speaking in my mind, because my understanding is that the President's Cup only, teams can actually add players from other clubs at the regional level. So they don't have to be club pass players. They can add players from any club, assuming they meet the other eligibility guidelines.
That is true. I think they're allowed up to 5 wild card players or players from other clubs from President's Cup. I'm sure that is true. The one thing I don't know is there any limitations if they played in a cup competition for another group? That's the one thing I would have to check on.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, this is Jessica. So, Brad, just to clarify that point you brought up regarding MLS teams or non-MLS teams or GA teams, if a team competed in a league, like let's say it was the Maryland United Winter League or the Columbia Winter League, then they would obtain eligibility if they played those 3 minimum eligibility games to then compete in State Cup, correct?
That is correct. Both of those are sanctioned MSYSA leagues and would qualify for that part of the
Eligibility.
Eligibility. Yep.
All right,
I
any
have
other
a follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So does the Girls Academy League itself qualify as a U.S. Youth League or not?
No, does not.
Okay. So those teams would also have to participate in one of those other sanctioned leagues.
That is correct.
Any other questions? Well, you can clearly see by my statement before Brad started speaking that there's no one that I know that is more prepared for a tournament than Brad Roos. The information that he presented today should help all of us prepare for the future. The dates are already set. The information's out there. All these slides will be on our website, so you can go back and refer to it. And any changes or adjustments, Brad will make it as we get closer to the start of State Cup. So if there's no other questions, Kendall, you look like you were going to say something.
Yes, I actually do. In regards to the U15 schedule, my suggestion is with the dates out, I think it should be revisited, because I coach a U15 team. Majority of U15 players, at least 75% in most of the teams, I believe, will be playing high school. And even though most of them are going to be JV, the early part of the high school season is when JV plays. And that's going to be that early March going into May, going into mid-April. So for my I can only speak for my team. I think the winter schedule will be more convenient, but I think it should be, maybe if there is a way you can do another survey with these dates out now for the teams to see, just to make sure that majority of the U15 teams' schedule are comfortable with the spring schedule.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Again, did you fill out the cup?
Yes.
But did you play President's Cup or State Cup last year?
State Cup.
Played State Cup. Okay.
Yeah, I fill out the survey, and I chose the alternate schedule.
I figured that. You know what? I may go back and just send a specific email to the 15 State Cup, or it would have been 14 last year, maybe to try one additional time to see what the numbers come out at. I honestly think, Kendall, in the end, if you want to know my honest opinion, I think it's going to come out like 50-50. Nathan and I went back and forth on this for a long period of time. But I'm happy to do it again. But I think as a 15-year-old team, if it comes back 50-50, I probably would stick to the normal schedule, and the teams will have to adjust to that. The other thing too is the JV teams, if that's what we're talking about the most, they normally don't go a 6-day-a-week schedule, number one. And number two, their seasons are normally shorter. So I don't know if that's going to be the case, because I still haven't gotten any information on what the spring schedule is going to look like. But I can clearly reach out again to the teams that registered from last year and see if that changes at all, if I go specifically to them.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, just a quick note. You guys mentioned, Coach Brad, that it's a possibility that all sports in high school will be in one season. The fall, the winter sports, and the spring. That means, in my case of the high school that I coach, it's small. We are going to have enough players to cover, because most of the players who play for soccer, for example, play different sports. So we might not have enough players for that team. Plus the club teams, as a time, are very serious to compete and go and get ready for State Cup or the big tournaments. So my assumption, talking with some of my friends at high school, they're going to take priority to play club. So I'm in Daddy Johnson has been a high school coach and a club coach. But I've been in touch with all of this, Kobe, with twice a week with the high school, and they got that. Coach, we had to choose now between club and high school, and some of them said we want to play club because of President's Cup, because of State Cup, and most of these older kids are ready for being seen by college coaches. So they are not going to pay too much attention to unfortunately, to high school. And that's just on my high school side, the players that I have.
So Julio, here's the point about that. All we're doing by trying to be proactive with this is we're not going to, we in MSYSA are not going to put the kids in the position of having to choose because of our cup our club schedules. If they decide to do something different because of a tournament or other things, that's something what they would have to work out with you. All we wanted to do was avoid, if they do play, that they would have to make a choice between club and high school. We're hoping that by using the schedule, they can do both.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
because-
I'm agree, but I'm saying my kids are always waiting to state cup. You know, the high school kids are ready to go on, you know, with their teams. They're ready to go. So that's what the boys in me. We're ready this year. There's gonna be a state cup. I say, well, as far as I know, will be. So they're excited for that.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, you know, that is, I think it will work very well, the schedule for state cup for us. So.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions before we move on? Okay, well, Brad, thanks again for all the information. This is really good, valuable stuff. I'm really glad that we have participants on today that were able to hear it and ask the questions they needed to get clarification. So that's great. So
Okay.
the next thing I wanted to let you know that the Recreation Committee has been meeting now for a couple times. The next meeting is Wednesday. It's going to be a Zoom, Wednesday, November 4th. There'll be an announcement going out, and it's really become a solid group of people. Actually, the Zoom meeting for rec clubs, underserved kids, is getting a lot of support from across the state. When we have these Zoom webinars, just to key in with the rec player, the rec club, and the underserved, we get more people on that Zoom call than we do on our bi-monthly Zoom meetings like this one today. So it's a hot topic. Bill Heiser is Vice President of Recreation. He's really excited about getting some things formulated so that we can start tackling 3 to 5 big issues throughout the next year concerning rec. So what's going to happen, I think, in the next couple meetings, it's such a large group that listen to the rec webinar. We're going to make a actual working committee so we can start rolling our sleeves up and coming up with 3 to 5 items that the state and the rec clubs want to tackle coming this coming year. So it's really exciting stuff. It's like top priority and one of the top things that we're doing for the state for the next 12 months. So now we're down to the last questions and answers. Anybody have anything they want to bring up? Now's the time to do it.
Mark, I do. Just 2 real quick important things that if any of the clubs received any of the PPP money from the state or the government, those portals are now open for applying for any forgiveness. So I encourage any and all the clubs to, apply for that forgiveness that will help you financially. The other piece is I had a couple questions about our invoicing for player registration, and I've been working with Jess on that, and we want to make sure when the invoices go out, they are absolutely correct. We had a little glitch where players that were primary and then secondary, we saw in the system that they were being charged double, or a club pass player was being charged double. So we had to fix all that before those invoices go out, and so that the clubs and the teams were not overcharged. So we want to, those invoices will probably be going out within the next week or 2 so that you guys have a couple of weeks to be able to get those back in. The other reminder is that Gandalf is working with the recreational clubs on getting their databases uploaded into our system. And he has, if not already, sent out reminders to the clubs on their recreational side to be able to get that database in, and we can get that invoicing going as well.
All right, thanks, Flo. Any other questions or comments before we sign off for today?
I have one more. I have to get my 3, and otherwise Trish will be disappointed. We're doing a referee workshop like we've done for years at DC United. So this doesn't really appeal to everyone, but for younger kids that want to potentially look at doing this, we are hosting one that's virtual with a live one after a match in 2021. That's going to be this Thursday. We're trying to get Catherine Nesbitt working with Rob Faraday and Jimmy on this. So there should be an email that's going through referee channels for that. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I think everybody has the info on that. It's a very cool program, and it'll definitely be an eye opener for people when they hear from, top flight referees. So obviously we need more referees in the game, and you never stop learning. This is a great tool, especially when they're live and in person. But given the circumstances, we're doing a 2-for-1, and this is kind of a virtual one that we're doing on Thursday. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, thanks, Dan. Okay, any other questions or comments before we sign off? If not, thanks for joining us again, everybody. Remember, November 4th is the REC webinar. And Brad, again, thanks for all the information. It was really good stuff. We got a lot of nice chats going where people were very appreciative of having everything lined up. And but the truth of the matter is, Alan Lydiate is still beats you out as far as taking most of the time on a webinar. Alan, you're still carrying number one.
And I'm not unhappy about that, Mark. Trust me.
No comment.
All right, guys, have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you back in 2 weeks. Stay safe. Enjoy this beautiful weather, and go Penn State.